Let me now call on His Excellency, the Ambassador of Sri Lanka. Is he on the line now?
Yes. Yes.
You have the floor, Excellency. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator Martin Chungong. I thank the briefers for their very insightful presentations on this very critical issue. Although we can reflect on the strides we have taken as a global community in empowering women to take on public leadership roles, we are all too familiar with that this has been slow progress and much is left to be done to ensure the sustained uh, and safe representation of women in public life. Mr. Moderator, despite increased initiatives taken towards women's full and effective participation in public life, we still face an inequality in leadership positions, especially in executive and legislative offices. It would be prudent to ask the question, why are policies not matching up to reality? A question that often points to the stark reality of violence and harassment women face in public life. Women in public office, compared to their male counterparts, are supported by a system reeking with gender bias and unwilling to undertake social change. We are, in my view, at a turning point in our history when it is opportune to eliminate violence against women. We must use the Beijing Declaration and the Platform for Action as the blueprint for action. The SDGs can be viewed as a benchmark in addressing these issues. Now, policy initiatives to increase civic spaces occupied by women must be complemented with codes of conduct, reporting mechanisms, zero tolerance policies, and other legal protection against sexual harassment, intimidation that women in public life face. Mr. Moderator, Sri Lanka is actively integrating policies and legal frameworks to create protections for women. Our constitution recognizes the principle of gender equality and non-discrimination as per the equality clause enshrined in Article 12. Amendments have been made to the Penal Code to include sexual harassment, trafficking, and procurement of women and sexual abuse. Sexual harassment in the workplace is a criminal offense under the criminal law of Sri Lanka. In line with creating a safe and equitable environment for women in public roles, Sri Lanka has adopted a principle of zero tolerance on sexual and gender-based violence. Additionally, we have adopted a policy framework and a national plan of action to address sexual and gender-based violence. Here at the UN, Sri Lanka joined the United Nations Secretary General's Circle of Leadership on the prevention of and response to sexual exploitation and abuse in United Nations operations and has signed the Secretary General's Voluntary Compact on the prevention of sexual abuse and contributed to the Voluntary Trust Fund for victims of sexual abuse. Currently, Sri Lankan women hold high-ranking positions as members of parliament and local government, secretaries to ministries, heads of diplomatic missions, and the judiciary. Recently, Sri Lanka appointed its first Deputy Inspector General of Police, highlighting our commitment to empowering women to take on leadership roles and our commitment to gender parity in public life. I wish to finally leave you with the thought whether it was not too late that we adults start leading exemplary lives in our homes. A demonstrable respect between father and mother, driving home the message of respect for women. Our conduct in our places of work must demonstrate the same ethos. Shouldn't I ask we introduce value-added education by the induction of ethics into our school curriculums to ensure that this message is driven home as part of the nation-building process? The respect for women to be an intrinsic part of our genetic makeup. I believe that we can produce a future generation in which violence against women would be a thing of the past. If we adults lead an exemplary lives in our homes, in our schools, in our universities, and in our places of work. My dear friends, complacency is the enemy of progress, and Sri Lanka pledges to further protect and support its valuable resource by further strengthening its legal and policy environment that rejects all forms of violence and harassment against women in public life. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your very useful comments.